Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live. This is where you ask your questions at @MarketingKitchen TV Twitter utilizing the hashtag Q&A, and I will answer your questions right here on YouTube.
Welcome, marketing chefs. I've got something truly special cooking in our Omni-Channel oven today.
Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live Chapter 12.
Up next in the Marketing Kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen, the Marketing Kitchen. Hi, I'm Ron VINING, your host of Marketing Kitchen TV.
Welcome to @MarketingKitchen TV Q&A Live. All you need to do is go to @MarketingKitchen TV on Twitter, use the hashtag Q&A, and I will answer your questions here. Welcome back to Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live. This is Chapter 12 of our 12-part series. However, I will be recording one more video after this one, giving you 13 chapters to this Summer 2020 series. Let's pick up where we left off with this question here. A successful CX strategy must address evolution of customer needs. Companies have seen better business results when listening to their customers. Companies that ignore become laggards. What tools can be utilized to measure customer experience? That, again, is an excellent question, and I'll be taking 4 questions today, so this is the first of the 4. I totally agree that a brand, regardless whether it's B2B or B2C, must have a customer experience strategy. When we talk about products and services, typically we evaluate them or we determine value based upon their price or based on the experience. So something and also quality. But hopefully everyone's giving good quality. But typically, yes, you would judge something based on its price, so what's the perceived value of that particular cost, value in terms of quality, so what is the perceived price for the quality, so is it premium or is it economy, is it seen as luxury, or is it just seen as, middle of the road? Think about, I mentioned before in a prior chapter about the Gap, actually Banana Republic being one of my favorite retail clothing brands. And they have 3 different tiers. They have Banana Republic, they have the Gap, and then they have Old Navy. And the clothes offerings are similar, but clearly the Banana Republic are a bit more premium. And then you have the middle of the road for the Gap, and then you have more of the economy, which would be Old Navy. And the prices reflect the quality of the clothing line. And here's a premium red shirt from Banana Republic. By the way, some people say, do you wear the same shirt in every video? And the answer is absolutely not. I have over 21 red t-shirts now. They're all from the Banana Republic, and they're all similar. There are different shades of red, but they all look pretty similar because they're all from the same vendor. Okay. So going back to your question here, so companies have seen better results when listening to their customers. Companies that ignore become laggards. Well, I'm not exactly sure that by ignoring your customer you become a laggard. You could be you could be completely ignoring your customer, but understanding the marketplace and putting out some of the latest and greatest products and not be a laggard. I think a better term to use would be that there might be a disconnect between you and your consumer. But it doesn't mean that you would be maybe falling behind in the marketplace. I think of the fact of Apple. Steve Jobs was one never to listen to the consumer. He followed his heart. So he had a quality standard, which was above, in most cases, yours and mine. And he came up with an idea or ideation for a product, and he moved forward with them, even if market research said different. And I know that is the exception as opposed to the rule, but when you think about the iPad, many people had tried a tablet, and right now I'm looking at my 2020 iPad Pro, and it's beautiful. I love the Magic Keyboard with trackpad case, and it's just a phenomenal device. The Apple Pencil is beautiful. And of course, this is multi-generations away from what Steve Jobs had originally come up with. But he had actually had the idea for the iPad. It was called the Newton. And I remember when that device first came out. It's back when people were coming out with PDAs. This was a highly advanced PDA, and it didn't sell well in the market because it was so far ahead of its time. When the iPhone became a huge success, then he came up with the iPad. And other people had tried similar products and had failed. And most people had made fun of. If you remember, people made fun of the pad name. Everyone was making fun of iPad, and then Apple, with 70+% of the tablet market share, even still to this day, has been printing money thanks to Steve Jobs bucking trends, not listening to consumers, and not giving them something that they wanted, but giving them something that he believed they needed, but yet didn't know that they needed it. All right. So, but I agree with you that one should listen to their customers, however. And your question here is, what tools can be utilized to measure customer experience? Well, there's a number of different analytics and a number of different metrics. There are a number of consulting companies that have come out with different tracking systems, if you will. Net Promoter Score is one that just quickly comes to mind. I know that there are actually two that are mentioned in your text, so I refer you back to that. Net Promoter Score is one of them. There are a number of formulas, so I would do a quick Google search right after you're done watching the video. Make sure you watch all four responses, so this one and the others. But then go to Google and then enter in metrics tools for measuring customer experience, and a number of formulas will come up, and you can track that out. I think about CLV, like customer lifetime value. That doesn't directly measure customer experience, but there are formulas quite similar to that one to judge that metric. I typically, surveys are certainly one. You have to ask really good questions to really gauge that. With experience, it's subjective really, more so than even price or quality. The experience is something that's personal. So it really just depends. I remember MasterCard did that great campaign commercial, Priceless, right? Where they talked about, you can get this for this, or you can get this, and that experience is priceless. So it's really about the individual consumer and making something that is appealing to them. One of the things that I've spent part of my career on is designing physical experiences, and also virtual ones, but how to experience a specific environment. So I've done that in retail for a number of brands, and then also in the theme park industry as well. And it's amazing to do that. I take all of my inspiration from Walt Disney, who really he understood, he took the model of storytelling and how in, say, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, how the story would unfold with the art when designing the Magic Kingdom, so Disneyland in California. He designed the landscapes as such that it unfolded in the same way that a storyteller in film would be able to direct the audience's eyes and really take them on that visual journey. So those things are quite important. I know I was on a couple of tangents, but I love customer experience, so thank you so much for asking that particular question. All right, let's take the second question for our Chapter 12. And our second question here is, all right, in an age when people use social networks, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter almost every day, will online advertising completely replace offline advertising one day? And you know what the answer to that is? No. I answered this in, I believe, the first chapter for this sort of the second segment here, so I believe that was Chapter 7. I do not believe that social media will replace traditional advertising. Again, remember, as a marketer, you have a toolkit. In digital, so digital marketing, one of which is social media. There's mobile, there's app-based, a number of different tactics, AR, VR. There are so many different engagement tools in the digital or virtual space that they are just one channel, one platform in the toolkit that a marketer can draw from. So I do not believe that they will completely replace I don't even believe that they will 50% replace. As long as we are living in a physical world, the virtual will not replace it. Now, even think about television advertising. So we were living in a physical world and there was television advertising. A number of those television ads, based on our now consumption habits, will be shifted over to social media because it's a different screen that we're looking at now. But it's not going to replace traditional out-of-home, point-of-sale, shopper marketing, physical marketing in the sense of a trade show, going to a booth, walking into a retail store and the end caps and the signage, driving down the street, seeing the hot donuts now at a Krispy Kreme, receiving a flyer on the windshield of your car. There's just so many different tactics. I even think going into a BJ's or a Costco, where the promotional item of the week, where there's a person who is sort of the ambassador for that product, right? And they have a flyer for you, they might have a demo. Those types of marketing are not going to go away because they work, they're effective. There's word of mouth, and word of mouth, of course, has been amplified by social media. But, picking up the phone, talking to friends, those types of things are never going to go away. There's going to always be a physical aspect to marketing. All right, so anyway, great question. Thank you very much for that. Our third question today: global internet use is accelerating. Which country do you think will make most innovations of the internet in the future? Can you predict some innovation? All right, twofold question, that's good. Trying to stump the futurist here. All right, which country do I think will make the most innovations of internet in the future? Well, I can tell you who currently is, and that would be China. China has surpassed the United States in just about every way when it comes to mobile engagement. Perhaps it's a dual-edged sword, so one of the best aspects of the lockdowns in the US is that a non-digital culture was forced to digitize a bit more than they had before. But going back to when I first moved to Asia, and so this is 11 years ago now, I spent a lot of time initially in Japan, and their use of QR codes, for example, far exceeded anything that was happening in the West. Now go to my last time I was in China, so just before the outbreak of you know what, the environment was such that if you did not have WeChat, and if you're not familiar with WeChat, it is a social network to rule them all. So in China, it has copied the best features of Facebook, Instagram, Snap, Line, Twitter. So WeChat has all of the features that all of the social network you might have separately and combined in one, as well as a robust payment platform. Anywhere from being able to book plane tickets to book your train, so a high-speed rail, or just use the regular bus or metropolitan train system to go around the city. You also, through the use of WeChat Pay, can buy anything at any 7-Eleven. Yes, there are 7-Elevens in China, as well as Domino's, or utilize it for a taxi. Though there is Didi there, which was actually Uber at one point, and then it became Didi, their version of that. But WeChat is this all-encompassing platform. And so in China, there was one time that I had gone out, and and in China they don't accept US credit cards, so you need to have a China-approved credit card. So your MasterCard, Visa, American Express most likely will not work in China. And so because I live in Singapore, I actually have a China authorized, actually it's a China UnionPay card. Anyhow, I attached that card to my WeChat, but anyway, it wasn't working. So I had eaten at a steakhouse, and the scanner wasn't working there. So I went to give them cash. And so you should have seen the look on their face at the register. They did not have any they couldn't make change. So they said you don't have, they basically said you don't have a digital payment platform. And I'm like, well, I do, but it's just not working. So I believe what ended up having to happen is that the manager had to pay me out of the cash from his wallet, etc., to pay. It was a bit embarrassing, and they probably thought, oh, stupid Angmo. Oh, by the way, it's Guaylo, and so somebody who's Caucasian who's in Asia. It's Guaylo in Hong Kong, it's Angmo in Singapore, it's Farang in Thailand. Anyhow, they have nicknames for us. So that being said, they probably thought I was clueless, but I really was prepared, but it just wasn't working. And and they couldn't actually take my physical credit card because the restaurant had just newly opened up, and they didn't have the credit card machine working, but they had their WeChat QR code system working. Anyhow, so all of that being said, China far more advanced than any other country when it comes to mobile payments. And like if you work for Huawei or you work for Baidu, which is Alibaba, and on their campuses, they only take their payment platforms. They don't take anything else. So if you were to eat at one of the shops on their campuses, you would need to have their payment platform or you would be shut out. And also you need their payment platforms to use like Ctrip, for example. Ctrip is kind of like a Travelocity or Expedia. You would need to have a China credit card or China social network for that. And of course, China has the social credit score, which you may or may not be familiar with, which if you are not a good citizen, then you are shut out from being able to make use of e-commerce platforms altogether based on your bad social behavior. So you need to become a good boy or a good girl, or you're shut out from access to your bank account, riding the train, you name it. And the final thing I want to say is that when you go to China, one of the things that is most surprising is that you will have a homeless person who will be, outside in front of, let's say, a subway station, and they actually have a QR code either on a little placard next to where they're sleeping, or if somebody's playing is a basker or whatever, and they're performing, they have their QR code for you to give them a tip or give them a donation. So far more advanced than the US. I would then answer your question that I would say that just about every third world country will be more innovative with the web than the West. And I'll tell you why. It's because they're starting out without the legacy architecture. So imagine, and this is the same thing that's true for a large organization versus a startup. When I start a new startup, we're starting from fresh. So I'm not using any legacy technology. I'm using the latest CRM, the latest web development tools, latest e-commerce platform. I mean, we're starting it all up from scratch. So it's the latest and greatest, and it works. And we're also not creating it from scratch. We're utilizing some of the more popular platforms that are out in the market. So it is state-of-the-art and ready to go. As opposed to if you were to try to get Macy's or try to get Mercedes, or you were trying to get Louis Vuitton to roll out a new system, it would be quite difficult for them to do that. Just about any organization, you name it, that's established, because they've got legacy systems that they've got to integrate or upgrade to work on that. So when you think about the West, so you think about Europe or you think about the Americas, because we had technology that we've been using for a long time, the curve of getting to something new, the hill or the mountain to climb is far greater. So third world countries will certainly be more tech savvy than advanced countries, just because of the fact that they're starting out from scratch, if that makes sense. Can I predict some innovations? Well, I mean, everything is going to be smart. Everything's going to be AI connected. To predict, I mean, certainly Apple next year will have their AR glasses most likely. I've been saying for 10 years now that AR will be what people thought VR was going to be 15 years ago. So I don't think VR is ever going to catch up outside of theme parks or specific training applications, unless the apparatus changes. But if the apparatus changes, it's really becoming an AR headset. So I really think that the AR glasses that Apple, I think they're going to be called Apple Glass, or some, I hope not. I hope they have their own original name, not, and they probably will, as opposed to, Google had the Google Glass. One thing really cool, by the way, that I read, that Apple Glass, let's just call it that for now, is that you won't need a prescription. So like for myself, as I'm getting older, I need to, my 20/20 vision is now, I don't know, 20/30, I think, which is not bad, but it makes it difficult sometimes to see like the blue that's on the screen here, and especially if I'm, the distance away. Anyhow, the Apple glasses are supposedly, through software, going to adjust to your eyes, so you wouldn't need to have lenses on them. So they'll work for anybody, because you can adjust the magnification based upon your eyesight preference. Wow, that is really cool. All right, so I predict AR is going to be the new thing. Foldable devices, I'm not so certain that foldable devices are going to catch on until they are things like we've seen in some futuristic shows where they actually kind of more like stretch. Apple has actually worked on liquid metal that conforms to different shapes, and it has memory to it. And that's quite interesting, because I've seen the patent, and it's similar to the Terminator and Terminator 2, where if you were to damage it, it wouldn't matter because the metal would sort of heal itself. And so that's an interesting technology. Certainly self-driving cars are going to take root. I'm quite curious to see what Apple, again's product is going to be in this particular space. Some other engagement with technology. I really hope that we don't move in towards chipping people. I know that Bill Gates has talked about chipping people in relation to being able to track them for viruses, etc. That really scares me. I don't know where you fall on the religious spectrum, but I remember reading the Bible when I was a kid, and in Revelation they talk about the mark of the beast, and they talk about technology that would either be embedded in your hand, your right hand, or in your forehead, and no one would be able to buy or sell without this. Now remember, this was written 2,000 plus years ago, and at that time people were like, that's impossible. You couldn't restrict somebody from buying or selling unless they had a mark. Well, hello, welcome to 2020, where with China's social credit score and without other pieces of technology, you could be banned from commerce if you didn't have the chip, right? We'll call it that. Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation has talked about that in order to ensure that everyone has received the vaccination would have a chip in it, and then that would be scannable, and then that way people wouldn't have to check in and out with their phone. Are you kidding me? I don't want that chip. I don't want the vaccine, number one. I don't get vaccinated. I am one of those people that if you want to get vaccinated, congratulations to you. But I had some vaccinations that I had adverse reactions to, and they've affected a number of systems in what was once a perfect body, okay? And so, especially a rushed, untested vaccine, not for me. Those are some potential innovations that are there. I think we're already at, just watch any sci-fi film, because whatever you're seeing in that film is something that you're going to see rolled out in your home or in your office or on the street or in a store within 5 to 10 years, within 5 years probably. AI is certainly going to take over, robotics are going to be big, everything's going to be smart, interconnected, but at this time I don't have a magic like solution, or I don't have this is going to be the greatest thing in 5 years, because we're kind of in that cycle right here where it's about incremental innovation. And actually, before I go, I would like you to tell me, what do you think, right? Which market or which country do you think is going to be at the top of innovation? And then also tell me, what do you predict are going to be some key innovations in the next 5 and then 10 years, okay? All right, thanks a lot. Thank you so much for that question. Actually, I said we were going to do 4 questions for this particular chapter 12, Actually, we're just going to do 3 questions because I didn't realize I answered that in another chapter because she had redone that question and then didn't delete it. One of the reasons that I ask everybody when I say make sure that you format them correctly and then when you repost it to delete the original is for this particular reason here. That is actually, so we're doing 3 today, and this was the 3rd and final question for chapter 12. So I'm going to end this episode now, and when we return for the bonus chapter 14, we're going to take on Daniel's question right here. Okay? Sound good? All right, I will see you in chapter 13, which completes the series. So technically, the episode you're watching right now completes our 12 chapter arc. However, I've got one bonus. It's always good to give a little extra, right? So I have one bonus chapter coming up, and so I'll see you next in our chapter 13, which will conclude our Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live Summer 2020 question and answer session. All right, see you in our next chapter and episode. Bye-bye. Thank you for your questions. Remember, if you have a question that you'd like to have answered here on YouTube, all you need to do is go to @MarketingKitchenTV on Twitter, use the hashtag Q&A, and I will answer your questions here. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, there's always fresh content simmering on our storytelling stovetop. So whatever happens in this kitchen shouldn't stay in this marketing kitchen. I'm Ron Vining, your host, reminding you to invite your family and friends to the next episode of Marketing Kitchen TV.